Yo, SO8P, man. SO8P, man. Welcome back to another episode of Son of a Preacher Man. Now, check this out, folks. Usually when I do these videos, I one take it. Okay? The reason I ain't got very many subscribers and not that many views is because I don't do this a lot. You know, most YouTubers, they putting out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 videos a day. I do one a week because I got a job and a life. You dig? So, I was reviewing this video like I always do. You know, I take my YouTube job serious. I review my videos. I one take my videos. I one take it. But I was reviewing my video and I realized it was riddled with mistakes. So I had to do it over. So if I'm a little short and curt this video, it's because I had to two-take it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Soapman proudly presents First Book of Samuel, Part 11, Saul and David. Now, when I originally did this video, I made a mistake and said Part 9. It ain't because I'm dyslexic. It's because originally, this episode was supposed to be Part 9. But, as always in life, or sometimes in life, things change. Now, I want to start this episode off just as the title suggests. Saul and David. So we'll start with King Saul. He's the first king of Israel. He's God's anointed. I first told you many episodes ago that we was going to enter into this power struggle between three people. Samuel, Saul, and David are those three people. Now, Samuel's going to die, which is going to leave the power struggle down to two people. And I told you in this power struggle, power was going to be tossed back and forth, vied for, stretched, contorted, passed back between these three. Well, now these three are down to two, Saul and David. And though Saul is the king and power rests with the king, which may seem to give him an advantage, it really doesn't. Because how Saul wields that power is suspect. So we got this power struggle, and it's come down to two individuals. On one side is King Saul. He's got the throne. It would seem he has the advantage also. Now, on the other side, you have David. And he wields a different type of power. He's crafty, he's clever, and he's adored. The first time we hear mention of David is from one of King Saul's own troops. One of his soldiers described, they're looking for a harp player to play the harp for King Saul to help calm down his fits of rage. One of King Saul's soldiers suggests a shepherd that he knows, a son of Jesse, he says. He describes him as a mighty, valiant man and a man of war. He also says he's prudent, which means wise. And he says he's of a beautiful countenance. He's cute. And he ends it with, and the Lord is with him. So the first that we hear, the first mention that we even have of David is this soldier throwing all these accolades on whoever this guy is or whoever this young man is. He can play the harp, he's wise, God is with him, he's a man of war. So David from the outset is popular. Okay? He's well liked, he's loved, he's adored, he's revered, he's looked well upon. He's cute. We talked about the power of attractiveness. What I'm trying to get over to you is David wields power too. It's a different type of power. Who wins in a fight between Superman and the Flash, okay? Who wins in a fight between Wolverine and the Hulk? Who wins in a fight between, different people bring different characteristics and attributes to the table. And what I'm telling you is David has a power also that he wields. God is with him. He's favored. Things go well for him. I'm going to translate to you into what that means in scientific terms. What that means is David is a genius. David is talented. He's crafty. He's political. He knows. Not to mention, he's the young rookie who defeated the veteran, the terror, Goliath, the giant, which has just jettisoned him into absolute rock star fame. When David killed Goliath, he became Mick Jagger, okay? He became Tupac in the 90s. He became Michael Jackson, and Michael Jordan. This puts Saul in an awkward position because now Saul realizes is that this young hero, this young treasure among his people, is his successor, which the prophet Samuel spoke of. And so it puts him in a bind to see his successor rise and to see his power be slowly sifted away. It is agonizing for him. It is a burden too great to bear. And Saul gives in to his primitive nature. He tries to eliminate the competition. So check this out. Instead of putting you through the agony of reading a whole bunch of verses, instead of punishing you and seeing you in continual anguish, I'm going to do us both a favor and just tell you how this story goes. Okay? So what's going to happen is David's on the run from Saul, of course, as we showed you in the last episode. David's on the run and he's hiding out in the wilderness. And it's this rich man named Nabal who comes out, and he's in the same territory where David and his rebellion are hiding out. And he's there shearing his sheep. And he's a very wealthy, well-to-do man. And this man has a lot of wealth and resources, but probably his most valuable resource is his wife, a woman named Abigail, okay? Now, not only is Abigail beautiful, but she's smart. She's a virtuous woman. She's the type of woman you give $1 to and she come back with $10. You dig? So the Bible heaps accolades upon this woman. And upon all these accolades, it lets you know she looks good. Okay, let's not leave that out. And, as was customary back in those days, it's probably safe to say she was considerably younger than her husband Nabal. Now, Troy, why are you, dancing around? Get to the point, okay? Well, the point is, David's gonna send messengers to this rich man Nabal, because he's on the run from King Saul. He's hiding out. He needs all the help and resources he can get. And Nabal's shearing his sheep, kicking up his feet, while David's hiding out. So he sends messengers to this rich man Nabal. And he says to Nabal, hey, don't know if you've heard of me. I'm the hero that saved the people from the Philistines. The young whelp who put his neck on a chopping block when I went out and fought the giant Philistine warrior Goliath. I don't know if you heard of me. Anyway, you've been shearing your sheep in my territory where me and my men are hiding out from the injustice of our king Saul. Yeah, we noticed you. We've noticed you here for some time, and we've left you alone. We've not robbed you. We've not bothered you, which is, kind of what we usually do when somebody, comes trespassing on our turf. He says, now, therefore, if the Lord has been kind to you and blessed you, be kind to us and show us some love. Now, the Bible lets you know ahead of time that Nabal is a churlish man. He's what the Bible says is a churlish man. And what the word churlish means is mean-spirited, negative, rude. Okay? And being that way, Nabal tells David's messenger to go take a hike. Yeah, he did. He says to David's messenger, David Schmavid. I didn't tell him to go fight no giant. And he ain't my friend. I don't know him from Adam, and furthermore, I don't owe him jack squat. He says to David's messenger, hey, you can go tell David, I said, lay an egg. So David messenger does just that. He goes back and tells David, he says, bruh, man, rich homie Quan said, you can go sit on an egg or lay it and sit on it or something along them lines. And David says, oh, did he now? And he tells his men, arm yourselves. So word gets back to the beautiful and wise Abigail. And she leaps into action. She starts packaging food and bread and fruits and cakes. She gets together lambs and oxen and rams and goats. And she prepares a, what would you call it? A perquisite. Okay? She prepares a, I'm sorry gift. She prepares what you call olive branch of royal magnitude. Okay? She's looking to make a friend, and it shows because she's smart and she knows that the ignorance and mean-spiritedness of her husband has just jeopardized both of their lives. So she puts together this package, okay? She puts together a humble pie fit for a king. And she ladens her wagons and donkeys, gets her servants together, and she heads in the direction where David and his men are encamped. And when she gets to David's camp, she humbly throws herself off of her ass. I don't mean literally, I mean her donkey. She throws herself off of her ass, no pun intended, and bows her head to the ground. Now this next slide, don't mean to go off on a tangent, but does this lady in this slide, does she or does she not look like Princess Leia from the old Star Wars. Okay, anyways, she wins an audience with David. And she impresses him. He admires her. He tells her, surely you have just averted bloodshed with your kindness. Because make no mistake, I was on my way to clean house. And if you had not shown up the moment you did, he said, I would have burned down the whole city. Look at what happens next. It's so creepy and ironic. But check out what happens next. David accepts Abigail's, I never did think of the word I'm trying to think of, or the phrase. Leave it in the comment section if you know what I'm stumbling over. I'm trying to think of a word or a phrase for the gift that she brought David. A consolation, and it wasn't that. Check out what happens next. David sends Abigail away in peace. While she was away, mending things over with David, her husband Nabal was at home throwing a great feast and party, which he got so drunk at that he slept for like the next day or so. Abigail comes home. When he wakes up out of his drunken coma, she informs him of the catastrophe that she's just averted. She lets him know, had I not taken this man that you slighted, that you offended, had I not taken him this phrase that I cannot think of to save my life, had I not taken this man this peace offering, that's what it was, peace offering, I couldn't think of it. She lets her husband Nabal know, once he's woken up out of his drunken stupor, she informs him that had I not made amends, she says, I just got back from making amends, and had I not brought this rebel David this peace offering, we'd all be dead. Me, you, all your party guests, the whole town, we'd all be dead. Nabal is shocked to death. No pun intended. I'm not saying that figuratively. He is shocked to death. He is so shocked, he becomes stricken. He is stricken with grief. So much so, he falls sick and dies 3 days later, as the slide I've provided for you shows. Nabal is so shocked at the accounts that his wife Abigail gives him. He is so grief-stricken, he falls ill and dies 3 days later. This is what 1 Samuel chapter 26 verses 1 through 8 reads. It says, and the Ziphites came unto Saul to Gibeah, saying, doth not David hide himself in the hill at Hachilah, which is before Yeshimon? Then Saul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul pitched in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Yeshimon by the way. But David abode in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. Now this is after Saul has said he's not going to come after David anymore. It says David therefore sent out spies and understood that Saul was come in very deed. And David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched. And David beheld the place where Saul lay. And Abner, the son of Ner, it's supposed to say Ner, it's a typo that says Nu. And Abner, the son of Ner, the captain of the host, and Saul lay in the trench, and the people pitched round about him. Then answered David and said to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee. And I have that in big, bold, red print, and I'll explain why in a second. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster, that means at his head. But Abner and the people lay round about him. Now, it's something I got to tell you that I didn't tell you. After Nabal dies, David sends messengers to Abigail and says, you know, I think you kind of fly. How about you consider signing up to be Team David? I got a jersey already made out for you. And guess what she does? She agrees. Now, let me explain to you what this means. This means that David not only has taken over possession of the late Nabal's beautiful, most likely much younger than him, wife, Abigail, but he's also taken over all of Nabal's riches, all of his property, all of his resources. David, through Abigail, upgrades. He just upgraded again, baby. Remember episode or two ago where he went to the priest Ahimelech, and Ahimelech upgraded him, gave him shewbread, gave him water, gave him Goliath's extra large sword. David, on the wilderness, with his small kingdom that he now has, small though it may be, it is a kingdom. He's got 600 men. He's got a large militia of 600 men. He's got a priest, a legitimate priest, the son of the murdered Ahimelech. Abiathar, I think is his name. David has a small microcosm of a kingdom. And now he just upgraded. Add to that equation, he's got money and resources. He can feed his troops who's on the run with him, who've been so loyal to him up until this point. He's got a beautiful new wife. He can take care of her all while he's on the run. This is a win. So Saul hears that David's in the wilderness of Ziph, and he goes down. The people of Ziph, they betray David. The Ziphites, they go to Saul and say, yo, Sire, doth not David hide himself in the land? So Saul arises, goes after David. David's onto it. His spies send him word, yeah, he's here. So they pinpoint Saul's location. They put eyes on Saul's camp. And David says to a couple of his boys, who's gonna go down to Saul with me? And Abishai says, I will go down with thee. Now, why do I have that in big, bold, red print? Because Abishai is special. He's David's sister's son, which makes him David's nephew. But here's the thing. We don't know if this is David's older sister or his younger sister. So Abishai, if David's sister Zeruiah is older than David, then David's nephew could very well be his age or older. So I just wanted to make that point before, we move on. Another quick point I want to make is you're going to hear a lot more of Abishai. Abishai is no joke. He and his brothers, he's got two brothers. There are three sons of Zeruiah. And Abishai and his brothers are no joke. Abishai says he'll go down. Abishai's always going to volunteer to go down because Abishai is about that life and he wants that smoke. Just remember that now. He and his brothers, the nephews of David's sisters, they are cut from the same cloth as David. They are not David, but they are cut from the same cloth. They are future Davids. They are little Davids. They are the next generation of David. So, the Bible says, so David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster. But Abner and the people lay round about him. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day. Now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, even with the spear at once. And I have in big bold red print, Abishai says, and I will not smite him a second time. Folks, I'm not going to go off. This episode is not about Abishai and his brothers. But I have that in big, bold red print to emphasize what I said earlier. I'm not harping on this man Abishai. I feel like I am being very accurate in forewarning you that this man is going to be instrumental to David's success. He and his brothers, but he most of all, is going to be, I shouldn't say most of all. He and his brothers are going to be instrumental in David's success. So I feel that it is important to emphasize this fact right now. And it is in my opinion that the reason Abishai is instrumental in David's success is because he is a man of war that will get his hands dirty. He is about that life. He wants the smoke. And if you are standing opposite him, I don't know what you're going to do. Abishai says to David, when they sneak into King Saul's camp, he says, we've got him right where we want him. He says, let me hit him one time. Give me one chance. I don't need two. And David said unto Abishai, destroy him not. For who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? David said furthermore, as the Lord liveth, the Lord shall smite him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall descend into battle and perish. The Lord forbid that I should stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed. But I pray thee, take thou now the spear that is at his bolster, and the cruse of water, and let us go. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they got them away. And no man saw it, nor knew it, neither awaked, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord was fallen upon them. Then David went over to the other side and stood on top of an hill afar off, a great space being between them. And David cried to the people and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, Answerest thou not, Abner? Then Abner answered and said, Who art thou that criest to the king? 1 Samuel chapter 26, verse 15 through 20 reads, And David said to Abner, Art not thou a valiant man? And who is like thee in Israel? Wherefore then hast thou not kept thy lord the king? For there came one of the people in to destroy the king thy lord. This thing is not good that thou hast done. And as the Lord liveth, ye are worthy to die, because ye have not kept your master, the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the cruse of water that was at his bolster. And Saul knew David's voice, and said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And David said, It is my voice, my lord, O king. Look at the politics of David. I can't even read it without giving this boy his props. Look at the politics of David. Look at his vocabulary. Look at his word usage. Look at his verbiage. He is a mastermind. He is a master politician. He's got King Saul and his men under the thumb. He does not kick dirt and sand in their eyes. He does not rub salt in the wound. He sprinkles it in. He says to Abner, you, by law, you should be dead. I caught you slipping. I caught you snoozing. You was over there counting sheep while I was still in the king's spear and kruse. I could have killed him, but I didn't trip. You, by right, should be put to death. King Saul hears his voice and says, is that my son David? And David says, yes, my Lord, O king. He didn't say, yeah, it's me, you SOB, like I would have said. He's got more coof than I do. I'd have said, yeah, it's me, you old, you know what? It's your boy in the house. David has more tact than the soap man. Okay? He says, yes, sire, it's me, as if he was still serving him at court. The Bible says, and he said, wherefore doth my Lord thus pursue after his servant? He says, for what have I done? Or what evil is in mine hand? Now therefore I pray, he says, let my Lord the king hear the words of his servant. If the Lord have stirred thee up against me, let him accept an offering. But if they be the children of men, cursed be they before the Lord, for they have driven me out this day from abiding in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, go serve other gods. Now therefore, let not my blood fall to the earth before the face of the Lord. And I have in big, bold, red print, it says, for the king of Israel is come out to seek a flea, as when one doth hunt a partridge in the mountains. The boy's wordplay is immaculate. He should have been a rapper. Let me explain in 20 seconds what he says. He says, if God has stirred you up against me, remember, King Saul has already vowed before this last episode. King Saul told David, I'm not going to come at you no more. When David cut part of King Saul's robe and showed him, I could have killed you, King Saul says, you valued my life more than I valued yours. I'm not going to come after you no more. And lo and behold, here he is once again, coming after David, seeking his life. So David performs another great feat, steals his spear and his cruse of water when Abishai wanted to strike him down, dead. And David, he's yelling to the king. He says, understand this. He says, understand this. If God has stirred you up against me, let me give him a peace offering. But if it's some shady coons that's then stirred you up against me, curse them. Because of them, I'm on the run. Because of them, I'm having to seek refuge with the enemies of the children of Israel. And they worship false gods. So I'm in this precarious predicament because of some haters? Because somebody didn't hate it and instigated and got you all riled up against me? And he says, why has a prestigious, valiant king such as yourself spent all these resources on a flea, meaning himself, meaning David? He calls himself a flea. 1 Samuel chapter 26, verses 21 through 25 reads, then said Saul, I have sinned. Return, my son David. And now I don't know if that means return to where your place was or return to me. If it means return to me, even as Saul apologizes, he's plotting to kill this man. But I must admit, I don't know if he's saying return back to your hiding spot or return to me at the king's table, at the king's court, at the king's side. He says, for I will no more do thee harm, because my soul was precious in thine eyes this day. Behold, I have played the fool and have erred exceedingly. And David answered and said, behold, the king's spear, and let one of the young men come over and fetch it. The Lord render to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness, for the Lord delivered thee into my hand today. But I would not stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed. And behold, as thy life was much set by this day in mine eyes, so let my life be much set by in the eyes of the Lord, and let him deliver me out of all tribulation. Then Saul said to David, blessed be thou, my son David. Thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt thou still prevail. And I have that in big, bold, red print. This is King Saul, the enemy of David, telling him he's going to go on to do great things. And that's why that's in big, bold, red print. It says, so David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. Now let's unpack this for clarity. David sneaks into Saul's camp. Abishai suggests and asks permission to kill the king. Rightfully so. David tells his nephew Abishai, let me tell you something. Because as tough as Abishai may be, David is that much more wiser. And David's thinking long term. He tells his nephew Abishai, he says, let me tell you something. The king may die in battle. He may slip and bump his head. He may stumble and fall and break his neck. He said lightning may strike him down. He says he may step on a crack and break his back. He says the sky may fall and something bump him on the head, boop, and he may perish. And furthermore, I hope so. He says, but let me tell you what will not happen. This man will not die by my hands, because he is God's chosen and anointed. And who can stretch forth their hand against God's anointed and be blameless? He says, I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want to run from that. I don't want it haunting my soul. But take his spear and his cruse of water. So David and Abishai, they leave the camp. But this noble act by David will go down etched in the history books forever. This merciful act, this sparing of Saul's life, this sparing the life of the man who seeks his life and seeks the lives of his men. So David and Abishai escape with Saul's spear and cruse of water. David says, nah, we just gonna take his stuff, Abishai. Now, I don't know how Abishai felt about that. He was probably thinking to himself. Abishai was thinking one of two things. Either we gonna pay for this, we gonna live to regret this later, or David knows what he's doing. But he listens to David, and he spares the king. And they escape out of King Saul's camp with King Saul's spear and his cruse of water, which was at his bolster. Seen here on the slide, I've painstakingly provided you. And it probably happened just like this, how you see. No, I'm joking. Anyways, they escape out of King Saul's camp. And David goes to a safe distance, to a nearby hill with enough space in between he and King Saul's camp. It's close enough to where he can communicate with King Saul and the men of his camp, but far enough away he's at a safe distance. He can safely communicate. He doesn't rub Saul's nose in it, but he tells Abner, by right you should be dead. You left the king vulnerable. By right you should be dead. And he pleads with King Saul and convinces King Saul that he's hunting a man that poses no threat to him. King Saul is humiliated and humbly retreats, vowing not to seek David's life anymore. And David tells King Saul, just like I valued your life today, may God value my life and deliver me from all tribulation, including your ass. 1 Samuel chapter 27 verses 1 through 7 reads, and David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. And I have that in big bold red print. And here's why. David is at his wit's end with this man. That's why. David is at his wit's end with this man. He has narrowly escaped Saul. Sorry for going through these slides like this, y'all. But just enjoy while I talk for a second. David has narrowly escaped this man's clutches for, I believe, the greater part of a decade, somewhere between 5 and 10 years. He's had enough. How much can he take? He's at, I swear she looked just like Princess Leia. The man is at his wit's end. He says, I will one day be killed by Saul. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before he catches me and kills me. How long can I pretend like this is not inevitable? David's a realist. He's attempting to be honest with himself. How long can I evade this madman? It says, there's nothing better for me than I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines, and Saul shall despair of me, to seek me any more in the coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand. He says, there is nothing left for me to do but seek refuge in the lands of my sworn enemies. It says, and David arose, and he passed over with 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maoch, king of Gath. And David dwelt in Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household. Even David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam, the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the Carmelite, Nabal's wife. And it was told Saul that David was fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. And David said unto Achish, if I have now found grace in thine eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there. For why should thy servant dwell in the royal city with thee? Then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertaineth unto the kings of Judah unto this day. And And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was a full year and 14 months. Was a full year and 4 months. A full year and 4 months, which would make 16 months. 1 Samuel chapter 27 verses 8 through 12 reads, "And David and his men went up and invaded the Geshurites and the Gezites and the Amalekites, for those nations were of old the inhabitants of the land, as thou goest to shore, even unto the land of Egypt. And David smote the land, and left neither man nor woman alive, and took away the sheep, and the oxen, and the asses, and the camels, and the apparel, and returned, and came to Achish. And Achish said, Whither have ye made a road today? And David said, Against the south of Judah, and against the south of the Jerahmeelites, and against the south of the Kenites. And David saved neither man nor woman alive to bring tidings to Gath, saying, Lest they should tell on us, saying, So did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwelleth in the country of the Philistines. And Achish believed David, saying, He hath made his people Israel to utterly abhor him. Therefore he shall be my servant forever." Now let me explain and unpack those last few verses. David says, I can't keep living like this, running from place to place from Saul. So he goes and parlays and makes peace with he and Saul's enemies, the Philistines. King Achish of Gath, he welcomes David with open arms because David is a hero. He's an asset to King Achish. This is the dude that have been beaten up on the Philistines for the past how many years? Furthermore, David's bringing King Achish back a lot of spoil. King Achish says to David, you made a road today. I see you got a lot of stuff you coming back with. Who'd you hit up? David says, oh, the Kenites and these people naming off tribes of his people. He's lying, saying, I've pillaged and plundered my own people, your enemies. David's lying. He's really pillaged and plundered the Amalekites and the Gezites and the Geshurites, who are not children of Israel. But King Achish says to himself, what a low down, dirty snake in the grass David is, pillaging and plundering his own people. I like him. That's what Achish says. Achish says, this dude is about as grimy gets. I like him. He can stay. He says, can we keep him? King Achish of Gath says, the Israelites must utterly abhor this man who was once their number one champion. He's now come over to our side and fights for us. He says, this man is the lowest of the low. I like him. Ladies and gentlemen, as much fun as we having, we've come to this part in the episode where I thank you for joining me and spending this last 49 minutes and 15 seconds of your time with me. Good looking. Much love. Unfortunately, I must bid you farewell. If you new to this channel, hit that like and subscribe button for your boy. If you got any compliments, comments, or insults, leave them in the comment section. If you have any flirtatious phrases, or if you just want to stroke my ego, leave it in the comment section. If you want to argue, chop it up, bicker. It doesn't matter what label you put on it. If you want to go back and forth, mano a mano, with the terror, first of all, I salute you. Second of all, I'm with it. Sacrifice yourself at the altar. You'd be better off slitting your own wrist, but I welcome you. I'm lonely. I'm bored. Nobody ever challenges me. Nobody ever disputes me. Give me something to do. Okay? Until next time, I'll see you next time. Same soap time, same soap channel. Soap Man out.